Hey, everybody. It is another night of fortunately mostly peaceful protests around the United States. We're going to be checking in on a number of different cities and urban areas. I have videos to play for you. I want to get your questions. We're going to do a lot of different things. I have some notes as always. I come prepared with different elements that I want to discuss. I see people before starting who in the chat were inquiring about the urban garden. I do have updates about that, and I will get to that momentarily. Um, uh, Maybe we'll discuss the defunding police movement, I guess, that's going on. I don't know that I'll talk that much about the upgraded charges on Derek Chauvin, only because I believe a video just published about that on my YouTube channel. It did, yeah. So I don't want to be like doing a live stream with the exact same content that is on the YouTube channel right now. So maybe we won't do that right away, but I'm always glad to take suggestions and to see what the people want for sure. Okay, there's a few super chats that have already come in, and they're not visible on this screen, but one of them is visible here. The first one is from Comrade Matthias, who says, have you been to or do you plan to be at a protest? Assuming you mean these protests, I have not been to them. Listen, I don't know that I can do too much at the protest versus being here with you guys and streaming the different protests, and also coronavirus, right? I mean, I don't know that I need to be one more person there possibly catching or spreading the virus. So I've been to many protests in my day, but not over the last 5 days. And as of right now, I don't plan to go. Matt Chavez says, who are the unidentified people guarding in Washington, D.C.? Yeah, I tweeted about that, so I can actually show you a picture of exactly what that looks like. These folks, the reports are that they're with the federal government. These are people in sort of like generic military type uniforms and no name tags, as they often have. And people asking them who they're with. As Dan Friedman says, they said they're with the federal government. My understanding is that they're with the Bureau of Prisons, and they are officers specifically trained in dealing with riots at prisons, and that they have been deployed to Washington, D.C. That's what I know so far. Thanks to Micah Gelfand, who says, thanks for the great content. I appreciate your thoughtful perspective, interviews, and analysis. Keep up the good work. Let me actually clean up. Whoa, super chats just went crazy. I just want to clean this up a little bit. That looks about right, I would say. There we go. Okay, good. Yeah, so that's that. Bureau of Prisons people. Now, by the way, just while we're here, can anybody explain to me, like, what is the justification for what we see? Whoop. Okay, that doesn't seem to be the video I wanted. This is the one. What possible justification could there be for what we see here? The way police are going after this woman right here. And then ultimately this woman here on the left. Like, what could have... Imagine that this is, quote, out of context, and that like 5 seconds before the video started, anything you can imagine took place that would justify this behavior. What could that something be? Like, what could possibly justify what police are doing to this woman right here? I mean, okay, she tried to sort of break free. She resisted in some way. There's cops all around her, and they're taking turns swinging at her with batons, right? Like, what on earth could possibly justify this? I don't know. Like, send me a super chat or let me know on Twitch what could have happened here that justifies this behavior. It doesn't make sense to me. I just fail to understand it. Okay. Thank you to Crazy Hawaiian in Pennsylvania for the Twitch Prime subscription, who says it's my 6-month anniversary. Thank you. Apple Pirates and Sahira have signed up. We are indeed. This is the woke stream, twitch.tv/woke. And then we have subsequent elements of the stream. This is Atlanta. We will be checking in there. This is a combination of Nashville, Tennessee, Detroit, Michigan in the lower left, Indianapolis, Indiana in the lower right. And here we have Seattle, Washington. I can actually hear the helicopters here in Boston as we speak. There have been a couple of actually protests today. Vigils, some were called, gatherings, others were called. And everything's peaceful as far as I know so far, which is very, very important. And again, remember, Trump is trying to make us think that there is widespread violence and looting going on, but we overwhelmingly have protesters, and what they do is protest. And then you have people with nefarious motives who are not protesters, they're looters, or they're inciters, or they are, whatever. And it's important not to allow that to be conflated. Insane Lane says, hello, have you had the time to look into the story of the Australian journalist attacked by police and the fallout? Yeah, I saw the footage and I read about it. I don't have any particular insight into it, but I did check it out after people recommended it last stream. Also, Comrade Matthias says, do you think there's a limit that even Barre won't be willing to cross? Also, what are the chances of Barre turning against Trump? Anybody could always turn against Trump. That's always a possibility. I think that the limit for Barre is I don't believe Donald Trump is going to go peacefully if he loses in November, in the sense that I believe Trump will say it was rigged, it was stolen in some way. Because remember, he's been arguing that an election that he won was rigged in 2016. Trump won electorally in 2016, and he spent 3.5 years arguing that the results were bogus and that it was rigged. Just imagine if he loses. And so here's the other thing I have prepared for you guys today. If people want, I will actually go through the map and tell you why Trump is panicking. Now, that doesn't mean that he's going to lose, but if people are interested, I've been studying various elements of geography, and I would be ready to present to you essentially why Trump should be panicking the way he is, unless things were to radically change. It looks like some people are interested in the map. Some people are not. Okay, there's a moderate level of interest. Okay, very good. So that, I guess, means maybe I'll do it. Maybe I won't. Okay, let's see. Who else sent in messages? C. Thomas sends a super chat. Adrian Benningfield says, David, I know there's a lot going on, but could you please cover the immigrants being detained at the border, please? I don't know. I mean, there are always immigrants being detained at the border. I don't know specifically what you're referring to, but I'll check it out. Thank you for C. Thomas for subscribing on YouTube, and Byron Tobin for the super chat. Shaners says, I asked a Republican family member if police shooting paintballs at people on their private property was okay. They should have listened and gone inside. Unbelievable. Yeah, I actually just tweeted, and this may resonate with some folks. I just tweeted, and this would be a beautiful, oh, wow. I just tweeted it 10 minutes ago, and it has 300 likes. I said, if Trump deploys the military against protesters, would that qualify as the government tyranny that the gun people say they will fight against with their guns? And of course, one of the primary justifications that we hear from a large swath of Second Amendment people is the government could become tyrannical. And if it did, we would need our rifles and our handguns to fight against them. So two-part question, does this count? When Trump says, I don't care what governors say, I might just decide to send in the federal military. Does that count as government tyranny? Number two, are you going to do anything about it? And then, of course, number three, will your rifles and handguns work against helicopters and armored vehicles, etc.? I'm just asking the questions, and I mean that quite literally, my friends. Thank you to Norvi for the support over on Twitch. I am going to, at some point in this stream, I feel kind of bad that some of the people that watch on Twitch have been a little sad. They've been a little sad. They feel as though we need some exclusive Twitch streams. So at some point in this stream, we are going to go over exclusively to Twitch just to sort of reassure everybody and reprove my devotion to the Twitch audience. So we will, at some point, we will pinch off all of the other streams that are going on, and we will be exclusively on Twitch. And at that point, it's really going to get crazy. I'm going to talk to you about my strawberry plant once we do that. And I expect that it could actually cause even more civil unrest than we've seen so far. Okay. Ken Clive says, just arrived on stream. Someone may have already asked, aren't curfews against peaceful protest unconstitutional? It's unclear to me. I asked a couple lawyers about that today, and they said that it's a contested issue whether a curfew at all is constitutional, and in particular, if you can show that it is designed or geared specifically towards suppressing peaceful protests, is it even potentially a First Amendment violation? You know, I'm not a legal scholar. The legal scholars told me that it is much debated, and there is not a definitive answer one way or the other on that. Okay, a couple of other things that I wanted to show you as we are looking at different things here. Here is White House spokesman Hogan Gidley. If you can imagine a more, I guess what I mean is Hogan Gidley is the perfect name for this individual, I think is what I'm getting at. Hogan Gidley. Here's Hogan Gidley on the possibility of Trump using the military to stop protests. Now, understand, this is the next level. It was already dubious to send in military at all when governors have not asked for it. You've got to suspend the Posse Comitatus Act with the Insurrection Act of 1807. Blah, blah, blah. You know, we've already heard the analysis. But it was supposedly to quell the tiny percentage of people that are not peaceful protesters. Now the question is, what about just using it to stop protests altogether? Let's take a listen.
And then after he left that statement and went on to the White House, Hogan?
First of all, let me make the point that it's the president's decision alone whether or not to invoke the Insurrection Act. He was elected. He was voted on by the American people to be in the office.
Well, he was really voted on by the Electoral College. The American people voted for Hillary by 3 million more votes.
Of the presidency, be in the Oval Office. He alone makes these decisions. I'm not going to get into a private conversation between the President of the United States and the Secretary of Defense.
Never.
What I can tell you is that the president wants all options on the table to protect the American people. And what we've seen systematically across this country is in a lot of places, police are not given the authority to arrest people who are breaking the law.
Guys, the problem is the police don't have enough power. Can you imagine the police with riot squads that have been doing, for example, hold on a second, where was this? The police that have been doing this stuff. We've got to empower these people. Right? They don't have enough power. Okay, anyway, here's Hogan Gidley.
Citizens are not being protected. And so the president made the point that all options are on the table because it's up to the federal government to protect the people. When it's not.
Wait a second. Hold on a second. Let me think about that. So coronavirus starts coming in. Trump does nothing. Doesn't build a testing program. Testing is a miserable failure. And Trump says, you know, where are the governors? It's up to the governors to get PPE. It's up to the governors to get ventilators. It's up to the governors to develop testing. Now, though, Hogan Gidley says the federal government ultimately is responsible for defending the American people. Really? What about on coronavirus, Hogan? I'd love to hear from you about that.
It's not overreaching wildly. It is supposed to be focused singularly on protecting the lives of the American citizenry.
Oh,
and that's what's important here, and that's what the president's focused on.
So is it still an option for the president?
All options are on the table with this president when the lives of the American people are at risk.
There you go. So I think we all know kind of the direction that is potentially going to, it is literal garbage. I see people in the chat calling this garbage, and it is exactly garbage. That is exactly how I would describe it. A couple of other super chats coming in. Let me see here. Harvey Willing says, is the U.S. a police state in your opinion? Keep up the great work. No, the U.S. is not a police state, but we are starting to see characteristics localized in certain areas, you know, when police don't let peaceful protesters leave so that then when the curfew hits, they immediately start arresting them. Like, that's not, you look at the ACLU's protesting guides. That's not how it's supposed to work. So we are starting to see police state characteristics in some areas. I would not characterize a big picture the U.S. as a police state at this point in time, and that could change. Micah Gelfin says Hogan Gidley is not a real name. He's obviously not human. Alien, Trump bot. McLean Racing says, why do you think people like Joe Rogan and Cigar and Jetty completely dismiss all the videos of police using violence against peaceful protesters? I have no idea. I didn't know that if they've done that, I've not seen it. I just don't know what you're referring to. It's been a busy week. I've not really watched anything. David D'Arcy says, "Hi David. Goonie Ray on Bow, her lat is how you pronounce the Irish phrase I sent you the other night. It means good luck on your road. Ireland feels genuine sympathy for Forrest Trump's fascism." All right. Stun Ever says, "They got the guns, we got the numbers. Unite, vote." Hot Mustard Gas says, "I don't know if my previous super chat came through. Why is Trump tweeting about churches burning?" I didn't see that. Let's take a look. I happen to have Trump's tweets right here. Churches burning. Let's see here. Churches burning. I'm going to talk about defund the police in a second. Churches burning. I'm not seeing that. I guess we're maybe getting to it here. No. You don't burn churches in America. I didn't know any church was burned. Does anybody know? Has any church been burned? I know about Control F, guys. It's more fun to scroll through it. I don't know a thing about churches being burned. If anybody knows about that, let me know. But it's certainly something I'm unfamiliar with at this point in time. Amicable Atheist says, "David, could you please talk about the Secretary of the Army's open letter to the service, specifically the Army's official position to protect the rights of Americans?" I didn't see that. I did cover former Secretary of State Jim Mattis's brutal, scathing letter, but I did not see that letter. I will look into it. And Robert Mifflin asks, "Do you think Esper is out? Definitely go over the map." Okay. I think that it is quite plausible that Mark Esper, Trump's current Secretary of Defense, will be fired. He has made it clear that, listen, in a way that is not straight up saying Trump's out of his mind, Esper has made it clear that he's not into deploying troops in the ways that Donald Trump wants to. And I would not at all be shocked if Mark Esper were to get fired. Okay. Let me get to a couple of different things. Indulge me for a moment. And, I see people. Am I going to be doing new member thank yous? Yes, I will. So I'll do one just to kick us off, and then I'll get caught up. Eric Causey is new member number 1 today on my website. Oh, boy, everything going wrong over here. Hold on a second. Number 1. Well, there we go. Number 1. Okay. Yes, I will be doing new member thank yous. I always appreciate folks signing up, and everybody will get a thank you. But I've got so much content to get to that I'm going to get back to that momentarily. Number 1, how is my garden doing? There are much more important things right now, but people are asking about it. My garden is doing really, really well. I had so many cucumber plants. I threw down like 20 seeds, and they all germinated that I needed to cull them because you're really supposed to have like 12 inches between cukes. So I started pulling some of them out, gave some of them to my neighbor. I've got yellow zucchini going. I've got tomato plants are explosively growing. It's completely out of control. My mint I've never seen mint like this before. And I have a strawberry plant. This is unbelievable, with 1 strawberry right now. So it's slowly turning red and ripening. This is the first year for this strawberry plant. Some people told me I won't get any good strawberries till next year. I might as well just pinch the flowers and just let the plant grow rather than generate strawberries. But my plan is at some point I'm going to do a video, maybe it'll even be live, where I will go out and pick the 1 strawberry. It should be ripe in like a week. And then I will pick a mint leaf and I will bring it into my house and I will put them on a plate. And with a fork and knife, I will eat the strawberry with little pieces of mint on it. And I think it would make for pretty compelling video. And it could get more attention than when one of those Kardashians turned out to have lied about being a billionaire. I think it could be huge. And it would be a sort of performance art. I feel like it would be like avant-garde performance art to eat 1 single strawberry with 1 leaf of mint with a fork and an extremely sharp knife. And in fact, I think it would be funnier visually with like a gigantic chef's knife. So that's my idea with my 1 strawberry. So I'm going to do that at some point. Number 2. How do I feel about defund the police? Okay, here's my thought about defund the police. Defund the police as an umbrella idea, I don't think is that thoughtful of an idea. There's no question that we need to demilitarize police departments, particularly in a lot of big cities. Now, do you do that by taking money away? Maybe, right? So if you can surgically reduce funding to demilitarize police, that's great. I think that that's fantastic. The problem is there's other police departments where they don't have enough money. And when you are short staffed, what you do as a police department is you do the easy stuff, you go after the low hanging fruit, and it often leads to the type of policing that we're trying to stop. So defunding already underfunded departments that are having to resort to, cheap policing tactics that we want to stop seems like the wrong way to go. So for me, it's demilitarize the police. Also, I have a segment coming up on this Friday. I mentioned this on the Tuesday stream, so I don't want to take up too much time with this, but we have to change police training. Police training should be much longer, like it is in a lot of European countries. And a huge portion of it should be social work type training, because when police officers have social work type training, they're able to de-escalate so many situations that now are leading to tasers, are leading to physical confrontations, etc. So, in some cases, you will need to fund that training. So this is why blanket defund police, the way I think about things, it's too simplistic and it doesn't actually get at a lot of the issues. We should have mental health and social work type training for police. That might cost more in the short term, but we will benefit dramatically over the long term. So that's my sense there from the standpoint of funding of police. Okay, let me do a couple of super chats. And then, and thank you to Daniel84, Little Blue Doggy, and Dranoa, all of whom are supporting now on Twitch. I'm going to do the electoral map momentarily. I think you guys will find this interesting. We're monitoring protests, overwhelmingly peaceful. I would say from what we've seen so far, exclusively peaceful in Denver, Austin, Seattle, Washington, D.C., Columbus, Ohio, another one in Seattle, Chicago, Illinois, and Atlanta. We've also been keeping an eye on a different part of Atlanta. Almost nothing is moving here. It just seems like things are basically, nothing's happening. We have here, this stream may have died. How sad would that be if this stream died? Okay, we have an ad there. This is video in Seattle, Washington, a very, very large crowd. And then here we have video from Los Angeles in the lower right and Minneapolis, Minnesota in the upper left. So we'll continue monitoring all of these streams and seeing what is going on. Okay, a couple of other super chats here. Let me see. Do you think, okay, Icladunix says, do you think the violence against protester he is threatening with is a tactic to distract from COVID-19 and blame the protesters if there's super spreading going on afterwards? I don't think it's a calculated strategy, but I would not be surprised to see Trump blame the growing numbers on the protests. Now, just briefly, let's look at some of the numbers lately, because what we've seen is that we'll look at yesterday's numbers. When you look at new cases, California continues to have a really big problem, but look at some of the places that now have the most new cases in terms of percentage. Texas and Florida. New York still has a lot, but in a percentage growth rate, it's tiny, because look at how many, New York was an epicenter. So California and New York are problematic, but you've got Texas, Florida, Georgia, Virginia, Illinois, and Maryland were early spots. North Carolina, New Jersey was an early spot. So the reason it's relevant to mention that they were early spots is what matters is the growth rate of cases. All of these places, California, New York, Illinois, Maryland, and New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, they were early hotspots. So even though the raw numbers are still high, they're very much on the decline. These other places are the ones that opened relatively early and now are regularly, Texas with 1769 yesterday. Let's look at their curve. Well, a lot of towns. Yeah, so Texas has been on a slow growth path that has lasted March, April, May, 2.5 months, cases are just slowly growing in Texas. That's a dramatically different curve than, not to brag, but sorry, hold on, that's California. not to brag, but that's a dramatically different curve than what we have here in Massachusetts. As you can see, this one-day thing is an artifact because they added to the total case numbers presumptive cases. So there weren't really 3,800 cases. These are presumptive cases from all along. This is a dramatically different curve than what Texas is seeing. So in any case, the point is, yes, of course, Donald Trump is going to blame the protesters as cases continue to spike in some places. Memorial Day, as people are pointing out, may also be a factor there. Okay, Azim Abu Khalil, my friend Azim, who's been on the streams for a long time. David, do you believe, as I do, that American society is trapped in a cyclone of ignorance and degradation? Apologies for the cynicism. Yeah, I do. I do. We have people running here in Atlanta, and I'm not completely sure what is going on, but it seems as though the level of chaos is escalating marginally there. And I don't know if Atlanta still has a 9 p.m. protest that we have hit now, 10 minutes past on the East Coast, but things seem to be puff. People running, you don't usually see adults running at full speed out on the street. Like, that's a sign usually that something unusual has happened. So hopefully things are still remaining calm. But again, each day, just overwhelmingly peaceful protests where, people walking together, people chanting, people singing, et cetera, et cetera. And that is all excellent to see. Excellent to see. Knowledge Gizmo says, U.S. is a surveillance state. Protesters are watched. Yes, that is absolutely true. Paula Faust checking in. Austin Shenzielos getting a membership. Hiroshi Loves You says, Hiroshi would eat up all of your strawberries. Well, I only have one right now, so there aren't that many strawberries to eat. Okay, I'm going to step away briefly from the protests because I did want to go over some elements of geography with you guys and look at the map. So here's what I want to explain. So this is the way the election went. Let's see if we can get a little zoom for everybody. Can we zoom this so that it looks proper? But then now we're not going to see the total numbers. Let's keep the zoom level here. I think that this is probably appropriate for our purposes. So where to start? This is how the election went in 2016. And there were some notable components here. First of all, both Ohio and Florida were won by Donald Trump in 2016. Republicans often depend on Ohio and Florida to win elections, whereas Democrats often are able to win elections without those states. So as an example, if we take some of these states that Democrats often win and flip them blue, so for example, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, you see how without Ohio and without Florida, Hillary Clinton would have won in 2016. We'll put these three back the way they were, which were for Donald Trump. So here's why the Trump administration is now panicking. I'm going from memory, so I'm going to give you an estimate here of the way this is all going down. Right now, Joe Biden is up by 1 in Ohio. If I recall correctly, Trump won Ohio by 8 in 2016. So let's just imagine that Trump loses Ohio and Joe Biden gets that. This means that if Trump simply loses Florida, it's over. He can get Arizona, which he's currently losing. He can get Wisconsin, which he's currently losing. He can get Michigan, which he's currently losing. And he can get Pennsylvania, which he's currently losing. If he loses Ohio, only Florida flipping, where Biden is now plus 3.5, gives this election to Donald Trump. Now let's flip Florida back. If Trump loses Ohio, but retains Florida, Joe Biden only needs to flip 2 of these 4 states that he's currently leading. He could get Arizona and Wisconsin. That gets him to 271. You need 270, by the way. He could get Arizona and Michigan, and that would get him to 270. He could get Arizona and Pennsylvania, and that gets him to 270. He could just get, pick any other 2, Wisconsin and Michigan, and that gets him to 270. He could get Pennsylvania alone, and it gets him to 270. So this is why the map for Trump is he's been yelling at his campaign manager, and he can't believe that he's losing to Joe Biden in a lot of these states. Because again, let's reset the map to the 2016 actual. If Trump were to lose Ohio, he essentially can lose almost nothing else. Like, okay, if he loses Ohio and Arizona, he still wins. If he loses Ohio and Wisconsin, he still wins. If he loses Ohio and Michigan, he still wins. But if he loses Pennsylvania or any two of these four states, and remember, he's losing every single one of these right now, it's over for Donald Trump, which is why this is so important. That's really the gist of the mapping that I wanted to go over with you guys. Interesting. So Florida alone will not do it for Joe Biden. But it is important to keep in mind that, you know, in looking at these two important states, Ohio and Florida, let's assume Trump keeps Ohio but loses Florida. It then becomes very difficult because Donald Trump has to run the table in all four of these key states, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. If indeed Trump loses Florida, you have to assume one of these goes for Biden. Arizona would do it. Wisconsin would put him at 271. Michigan would put him at 277, and Pennsylvania would put him at 281. This is why Trump is panicking, okay? And when you look at the recent polls, in fact, let's just do that just to be thorough. Let's see here on Real Clear Politics. We'll just look at a sampling of the recent state polls. Let's see, general election. So Florida, you know, Biden +3. If Trump loses Florida, it gets very difficult. In this Pennsylvania poll, Trump is still winning. That's not the case in all of them. Michigan, Biden is up. Wisconsin, currently a tie, but then another, even a Fox News poll has Biden +9 in Wisconsin. Arizona, you know, Trump +1, but then Biden +4. So the point is, the margin of error is very, very small for Donald Trump when it comes to the map and the way that it's looking for 2020. And that is that's essentially the point that I wanted to make. Oh, people are saying, look at Texas. Something interesting. I do want to let's look at what's going on in Texas. Texas, Trump versus Biden. Wow. Trump +2.2 and okay, so PPP is a left-leaning poll. Biden's winning that one, but even tied in the Dallas Morning News. I am shocked. So in 2016, this is important. In 2016, Trump won by 9. In 2012, Romney won by 16. In 2008, McCain won by 12. Yeah, I mean, listen, if Trump wins Texas, but only by 2, it's over. I mean, there's just not even a chance. Now, I want to be really careful. I have no confidence that this will hold through November. I have no confidence that this will hold through November. No person should stay home in November because of anything we have just looked at. This is a survey of where we are right now. We're in the middle of, 25% of the labor force having lost their jobs in the last 12 weeks. We're in the middle of a, global pandemic, which Trump has failed to respond to. Things can change very, very dramatically, and period. And every single person, of course, needs to be voting. Okay, other super chats that are coming in. Let's take a look. Kevin Dunham says Michigan Senate passes bill requiring implicit bias de-escalation police training amid national unrest and mental health screening. That's good news. Sam Dean says Black Lives Matter protest in Melbourne tomorrow. I'll update you. Thank you. L. McVicar says how the protesters have been handled in the last week would be more than enough justification for the U.S. to topple a foreign government. Right. We've argued that we need to go into other countries because we see instances of police treating or military treating citizens the way we have seen a lot of American police treat protesters this week. A very, very good point and well made. Thanks to Walter for the sign up. Comrade Matthias says, do you know who Larry Lawton? Would love to see you interview him. He's an ex-criminal who's working on prison and police reform, seems to share many of your ideas. Check out his YouTube channel. He's great. Have heard of him, not very familiar with him. Austin Shenzielos says, David, every video of Trump's walk to St. John's Church has their audio edited so you can't hear the tear gas. Please look, I can't be the only one that notices the same interrupting static. I didn't notice that, but I will check it out. Ron says, what do you think of Tom Cotton's piece in the New York Times and the Backlash? I think the piece is disgusting. I think now the New York Times is doing damage control, trying to, they said, oh, this actually did not really meet our requirement, our editorial requirements, et cetera, et cetera. And I, you know, I know people that have canceled their New York Times subscriptions because they ran that Tom Cotton screed. Zesty African says, I miss the man bun. Shout out to Keith Ellison for the great work. Hope you're staying safe. Thank you. Dutch Morgan says, George Floyd has been mourned more than Kobe Bryant. How it should be. I watched some of the memorial service today, and it was excellent. It was excellent. Let me say thank you to Thorsten Bublitz. Thorsten is new supporter number 2 today. Now, to be perfectly frank, Thorsten made a Patreon pledge, but that's everything counts tonight. I don't know how many of you are up to speed, but both. So we've dealt with YouTube and Facebook demonetization in the past. I'm sorry, we've dealt with YouTube demonetization in the past. The George Floyd related content and police brutality related content has been widely demonetized on both YouTube and Facebook. I've said before, I don't give a shit. We're going to keep covering it. We're going to keep talking about it. But both have overwhelmingly demonetized all of that content. So something like half of the stuff we did this week was at least partially demonetized at some point in time. So my only message to you is you can sort of like fight that by grabbing a membership on my website, joinpacman.com. We do have a coupon code. Use the coupon code. Don't use the coupon code. It's not means tested. Have a field day with the coupon code if you want. It'll save you 66%. Everybody who signs up, I am going to thank you profusely on this stream. I see names pop up on one of my 32 monitors that I have here, and I will thank you profusely. The website is working beautifully. We have, I had a perfect phone call earlier with our web developer, and she told me it is more than ready to tolerate all of the sign-up traffic that we are going to try to throw at it. So in any case, I won't say more about it now, but joinpacman.com. It's quick, it's simple, grab a membership. We estimate about 0.5% of our audience has memberships. If we were able to double that from 0.5 just to, as Trump says it, if we could go from 0.5 to 1%, we never have to worry about any of this demonetization nonsense again. So something to think about, something to think about. Okay, super chats continue to come in. Brody Andrew Mulligan says, tested positive for COVID-19 antibodies. I wanted to donate plasma or plasma/blood, but cannot because I'm gay. Thoughts on that ban? Could Corona help speed reform? Yeah, I believed that had been dealt with in some states, but I may be wrong about that, and I don't want to misspeak. But I'm sorry to hear that, Brody. Very sorry to hear that. Geek Speak 10 says Americans need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, or we never fix anything. Will this moment spark it? It may. It certainly may. We don't know, but I hope so. Kim Wayant sends a super chat. Aquarius70 and Geek Speak have grabbed YouTube memberships, which is very, very exciting. Over on Twitch, I want to say thanks to, B. Coldy. B. Coldy says, love the stream, need more subs, appreciate that. Deckned has subscribed, and so has Kius79. Adrian Benningfield says, David, you were saying become the good 1%. Exactly. Oftentimes, 1% is a pejorative term, but when it comes to supporting the David Pakman Show, if we can grow our support base from 0.5% of our audience to 1% of the audience, it will be an amazing 1%. And on that note, Annie Bailey has just signed up at joinpacman.com. Annie, thank you. You are a good person. I was going to say a great American, but I don't know that you're American. So I will just leave it at you are a good person, and that will be it. So very important announcement. I will be taking live calls on stream today. We've not done live calls for a little while. I will be doing them exclusively on Twitch. Sorry, I froze there. I had to be reset. At some point a little bit later, we are going to go exclusively over to Twitch for the stream, twitch.tv/David Pakman. And then I am going to blow the phone lines wide open and hear from some of you guys. We've not done live calls on a stream for a little bit. So that'll be very, very exciting. And of course, that will be once we get to 25 new members. I mean, listen, this is not, it's not chopped liver, my friends. Okay. Other things that I wanted to get to, let's just see what's going on. I don't want to miss what is going on. And so the great news is the protests are just happening peacefully. And, there's not really that much to say other than what a turnout. Look at what's going on here in the lower right of the screen, St. Louis, Missouri, as some like to say. A huge crowd alongside what appears to be a highway. That's coverage from KSDK in St. Louis. Bottom center is Atlanta, Georgia. It seems that so little is going on that we're just following a guy who looks like he's headed home from the gym. He looks like he has a gym bag with him, which is great. It would be amazing if people were able to go to gyms. We seem to have sort of a recursive box in the lower left where it is one of our boxes is subsequently divided into 12 further boxes. And so it's recursive coverage today. New York City, a lot of action, very peaceful. Columbus, Ohio. San Diego, California, still daylight there. In the upper right, we have Seattle, Washington. Upper center is Austin, Texas. And upper left is Washington, D.C. A few other specific streams that we've been keeping an eye on. This is another view in Metro Atlanta, although it looks like barely anything is going on. I'm going to go over to 11 Alive and see if they have a different stream. I think this is the better stream. Nope, this is a weather stream, which we definitely don't need. Live protests. Let's take a look here. Nope, it just looks like police vehicles. So very, very little going on in Atlanta, apparently. This is Los Angeles in the upper left, and this large window, Minneapolis in the lower right in the picture-in-picture. And again, a very, very peaceful protest that's going on. Let's listen in just a little bit. Oh, this isn't even live. This is a replay. But what are we even looking at? All right, I'm closing that off. And then this is live in Washington, D.C. You can see the White House in the distance, the Washington Monument behind it, and new elements of fencing have been added in Washington. To say that Donald Trump is scared, I think would be an overstatement right now. We don't know that for sure, but certainly they continue to build fences in Washington, D.C., and that is, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. Other super chats coming in. Let's see here. Jaya Logan says, I live in Arkansas, where neither District 1 or senator has opponent. How do you fix a one-party state when the opposition party doesn't even care? That's a real problem. That's a major problem. And, the Arkansas is very red. So that may be causing abandonment issues in terms of some of those races. Matt Chavez says North Korea and Iran are being critical of U.S. standards. That's sad. I didn't see that, but not surprising. Stun Ever says, join Pac-Man like me. Also find flippable seats in Congress and donate to Dem campaigns around the country. Good advice. Talio Divino says, hey, David, my grandparents are devout Trumpists and ignore any facts I show them as being fake news. Is there any way to get through to them? I have a bunch of YouTube clips about that. There are strategies. Part of it depends on like how much do you want to potentially risk ruining the relationship with your grandparents, and that would be a factor in what you decide to do. Adam Fresh Design sends a super chat with no message and then says, forgot my message. I live in South Bend, and you would not believe the amount of racist comments I heard today at work. I would believe it. I would believe it. Walter says, I've seen this argument from protest opposition that whites are more likely to die to police than blacks based on data. If that is the case, that would mean they are okay with police brutality if they are staying silent. We've actually done a deep dive into violence against people by police and looked at the racial numbers. And it is certainly true that the numbers are not as disproportionate as some might imagine, but they are disproportionate. And of course, my ideology is facts and data. And you can check out that video on my YouTube channel. And we might be one to rehash or maybe update, given the circumstances that we are currently living through. Let me say a few other thank yous. Christy McDonald upgraded her subscription on my website, so we're counting her as number 4. John Barre is number 5 at joinpacman.com. Jacqueline Lasso is number 6 today. Michael Kent is new member number 7. Scott Ernest made a pledge at patreon.com/David Pakman Show, and we're going to count it. And I very, very much appreciate that. We will be opening the phone lines today when we reach 25 members. It will be happening on an exclusive Twitch stream, and that's going to be happening a little bit later. I do also want to thank some of the people that are supporting over on Twitch, whose usernames are different than those on YouTube. Nug Wrangler has subscribed now for 9 months in a row. Is Mayo an Instrument has subscribed for 2 months with Prime. I consider mayonnaise an instrument, sure. Rotkreutz has subscribed for 2 months in a row. And Sweet Tooth has subscribed on Twitch and says, hey, David, I'm a big fan of the show. You're by far my favorite gardening channel on YouTube. Love from Toronto. Yeah, very much appreciate that. Tune in for politics from the left and also amateur, destructive gardening, where I am barely able to grow anything, but I have a great, great time doing it, which I think is half the fun is having fun, my friends. Half the pollen and politics. Exactly. I like that. Talio Divino says, sorry, I forgot to ask earlier. Do you feel we need to worry about Trump being able to convince the military to go along with him enough to hold on to the presidency, even if he loses? Listen, I may be wrong about this. We may be about to head down an even darker path in this country. I believe Trump will leave under protest, but I don't think that the military would assist Trump in staying in the White House if he loses to Joe Biden. I don't know. I just, I believe, I might be an idiot for believing it. I might be a naive moron, but I believe that despite how much our institutions have been weakened, I think Trump will complain and say it was rigged if he loses in November, but I believe that he will leave. I believe that he ultimately will leave. Thanks to Alex Stevenson for upgrading your membership to Alpha on YouTube. Very, very much appreciated. Okay, I had a couple of other things that I wanted to show you guys. Let me just find my list here. And then I will pull them up full screen, where I should have been better prepared on this. Oh, here we go. Okay, so listen, I'm not trying to do disaster porn, but I do want to just get your thoughts as to, like, is there any possible justification for any of these videos? So here's a video where there's a guy, we're going to look at this closely. This is New York City. There's a guy crossing the street on a bike wearing a helmet, and police start beating him with batons. And, like, he just seems to be trying to get across the street. He's eventually knocked off of his bike, and he's clearly trying to avoid getting hit. Is there any justification for what we are seeing in this video? Or am I maybe being unfair? Like, is there any way this would be out of context where what we are seeing is the warranted behavior? I just don't get it. I don't see how that is remotely possible. I don't understand. I don't know. Some people are saying, well, there was a curfew. Okay, but the guy's just walking across the street with his bike. It is, police are supposed to give an opportunity for, if people are walking away or seem to be going home, you don't start beating them with nightsticks. That doesn't really make sense. I have another video. So there's something called medical neutrality, which is in any kind of conflict situation, civil unrest, wars, whatever. You don't go after people providing medical aid or first aid. And this is a medic who says that, well, actually, let's just listen to what she says. I don't have to summarize.
We had set up a medical center.
Elements of medical.
So that anyone protesting would be safe. We were not protesting. We were not agitating. We had claimed that space.
This is
We had set up a triage area in case of any injuries. We had eye wash, sutures, EMTs, doctors, EMS workers. They came in full riot gear.
Right.
Hit us with shields, threw several people to the ground. We were grabbed, thrown, shouted at, screamed at, treated as criminals. No one resisted. You're being asked to leave the area.
Okay. So the point is, and I'm going to pause the video where you actually see some of the elements of medical here. This, I believe, is just bottled water that they essentially destroyed. There's this thing called medical neutrality where you don't go after people that are providing first aid. If this were a geopolitical war, if this were two countries, if one country destroys the medical tent or, whatever, it's considered a violation of the Geneva Conventions. And what appears to have happened is that police destroyed this small medical station that was going on. I'm trying to think like, steel manning other people and being charitable and all of that stuff. Is there any way that you can come up with even an imaginary situation where destroying the medical tent would be justified when these are people providing medical services? These are, not doctors necessarily, but medics certainly. I can't think of anything, and I'm willing to look at what people are saying in the chat. Nobody seems to be able to justify it so far. Okay, people are asking for me to show some other videos, but I don't know where those videos necessarily are. Yeah, anyway, I can't think of any justification for what we are seeing there whatsoever. Let me say thanks to Daniel Hooper. Daniel is new member number 9 today at joinpacman.com. Really appreciate the support. Daniel, thank you. Thank you. And feel free to use or not use the coupon code 2020 now. We just want people to be involved at whatever level is comfortable to them. Take the coupon code by all means. Okay, other super chats that are coming in. Thorol for Beck says, I'm a sporadic supporter, conflicted since I truly hate your stance on vaping, but now supporting you regardless. What is my stance on vaping? That it's not healthy, even though some people claim it is? I mean, it's like obviously aerosolized. My stance on vaping is the following. Here's a hot take for you. The term vaping implies that we're talking about water vapor, which sounds very innocuous. What you're really doing is aerosolizing chemicals, and I don't think there's any way that that's good for your lungs. So that's my position. I don't have any, ideological thing or just when people say this is maybe a healthy thing, it's like, how can aerosolizing chemicals and putting them into your lungs, how could that be a healthy thing? Anyway, we must stand united in defense of democracy. Don't let YouTube stifle you. Peaceful March on Washington 2.0. Absolutely. Geek Speak 10 says, as a vet, I agree. The military won't help him. I think you mean the military will not assist Donald Trump in staying in the Oval Office if he loses. Like Mabala says, David, you're a beta modified soy boy. Thanks. Is that a compliment? Beta modified soy boy. Thanks. Oh, that reminds me. I have something for you guys that I think it's too risky. Let me tell you in a second. Anyway, I know Giga Chad is good. I don't know if beta modified soy boy is good. Okay, I'm going to have something for you guys in a second. Miles Kaufman says, some Republican friends of mine turned on Trump. That's good. Matty Ice PVD says, David, now is the best time to start blowing trees. Does that mean smoking pot? I don't know what that means. Okay. Let me tell you guys something very, very special. There's this guy, Jimmy from Philly. Jimmy from Philly is a very, very angry Trumpist. We haven't heard from him for months at this point. And he would call in and we would mix it up. And some people liked him. Some people didn't like him. I never knew what Jimmy from Philly looked like. Jimmy from Philly yesterday sent me 4 videos that he uploaded to his Facebook page. And you see him. Every element of these videos are like nothing that I have ever seen before. And I think it has the potential to... anything could happen if I were to play these videos. Maybe those are videos that I should be playing for you guys. The only concern I have is, Jimmy from Philly doesn't include his full name. And I don't want him doxed is the thing if he doesn't want to be further identified. These are public videos that he sent. That's the only thing that I kind of feel weird about. Let me just see. Jimmy from Philly. I would not. That's the only thing. Maybe here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write back. Hey, Jimmy, I would be interested in playing these videos on stream. I think the audience would get a kick out of it, but I don't want to dox you. Look at how responsible I'm being. Can you guys imagine? I don't want to dox you. Are you okay with people potentially knowing your full name and what you look like? Let me know. But this guy hates me, and this is how look at how polite I am. It's unbelievable. Okay, I'm realizing I shouldn't just play it because, you know, I don't know if these are really public on his Facebook page or if you have to be friends with him. Actually, wait, I'm not friends with him and I was able to see it. So I guess the point is I'm going to ask Jimmy if he were to get back to me. Jimmy, if you're watching the stream, somehow get a message to me. I might not see your chat, but somebody start like trying to get my attention if Jimmy is on any one of the streams. Okay. Very, very good. That's not Jimmy. Somebody was pretending to be Jimmy from Philly. Excellent. So that would be something maybe we could look at very strongly at some point. Okay, Garrett Matheson, Pooh Bear has signed up. Garrett Matheson says, in Austin, where medics were pelted with rubber bullets for bringing in a seriously injured protester, called 911 and were asked to bring to police. Justin David says, hi from Germany. A politician here with personal connections to Harvard University said a lot of people there unanimously claimed there's little chance for Trump's reelection. What do you think? I don't know that Harvard necessarily knows everything about politics, but it's interesting. Oh, wait a second. Is Jimmy in the chat? Did Jimmy say that we can play his videos? No, I guess not. Some people are furious now that I teased that and I'm not necessarily going to play it. Okay, guys, I can't tell if the real Jimmy is in the chat and is okay me playing those videos or not. I'm going to need something else, or maybe, you know, Jimmy, respond to my email. Let's do it that way. If you're in the chat, respond to my email, and then I'll know that it is okay. Very good. Dan Samaflange, hey, David, have you or will you be protesting? Just curious, no snark or gotcha. So I'm not planning to join these protests between coronavirus and the fact that my platform here, where I can amplify what's going on nationally and, you know, remind everybody that these protests are overwhelmingly peaceful, et cetera, I think is much more powerful than anything I can do holding a sign. And I don't want to potentially spread the virus. I don't want to potentially catch the virus. So no, I don't plan at this point in time. I don't plan to join the protest, but I do plan to continue supporting them via the show. Robert Mifflin says VP ideas. Kamala's AG record won't go over well now. Yeah, I saw one report that says that from a merely mathematical standpoint, Kamala Harris is the, quote, best choice for Biden. Given what's going on right now and given her record at as the California AG, I am skeptical of whether Kamala Harris is the best person to be Joe Biden's VP. But in 2 months, things could change, and there's probably some argument you could make. I would much rather see Elizabeth Warren, because I think she's the most progressive of the people reasonably being considered. And that's sort of my thought at this point in time. Okay, guys, we are going to go. Oh, hold on. Thorol for Beck. I'm a vaping activist. I didn't know you're trying to get more people to vape. I don't know what that means. Thanks for addressing the issue. I'm sure you're acting in good faith. Down with the Trump junta. Viva la revolución. Okay. Very good. All right, guys. We are going to be taking live phone calls. I am shortly going to be blowing the phone lines wide open, but we are going to be doing it only on Twitch. So I will momentarily be pinching off the YouTube stream, the Facebook stream, and the Twitter stream. Come participate over on Twitch. We are going exclusive at twitch.tv/DavidPakman, twitch.tv/DavidPakman, twitch.tv/DavidPakman. The stream will not be interrupted over on Twitch. We are just going to stop the other streams. We are going only over to Twitch. We will open the phone lines and you guys will be allowed to call in. This could be risky. We've not done this for a little while. This is a Twitch raid, okay? YouTube viewers, raid Twitch. Facebook, raid Twitch. Twitter, raid twitch.tv/David Pakman. Okay, we're going to stop the other streams now. I will see you on Twitch momentarily, and it's going to be